Hi designers, I'm Anna Livermore from Vmora, where we help launch fashion designers. We've been doing this for 15 years, and with all the things that I've learned and experienced with designers, today I'm talking about fabric shows and why they're so important, and hopefully give you more confidence to show up to these shows and talk to these vendors and take a little bit away from the intimidation of like going to the show and there's all these other designers there and booths, and it can seem really, really overwhelming. So I'm going to break it down today, make it simple, give you some tips, and kind of just stress why it's so important to go to these trade shows. And then this is actually pre-recorded because as you're watching this today, I am at the fabric show in New York, and I'm going to just share their website so you can see. Here we go. So it is thefabricshows.com, and we're in New York this week. So it is the New York Fabric Show at the New Yorker Hotel right on 8th and 34th Street. You can register to attend right here. It's really simple. It's Wednesday the 17th and Thursday the 18th. They're also having one in LA and Miami, so you can check those out. On Wednesday, the show is from 10 to 6. Thursday, it is from 9 to 6. So I hope to see you all there. Definitely stop by our booth and say hi. We would love to see you. And if you have any questions while you're there, feel free to come up and ask me, or Allison will both be at the booth. Okay, so what I've noticed with designers, like to me, a fabric show is no big deal. I just go, I know the vendors, there's people I have seen before, I have friends there. So it's a lot less intimidating, but I do remember as a brand new designer and person in the industry, going to these events felt really, really scary. I was afraid that I was going to mess up when I would talk to a booth, or maybe I wouldn't have the right answers to the questions that they had. Like right away, they were going to know that I was a newbie. So there's some tips and things that I want to run you through so you don't feel that way when you're at the show. And maybe you won't. Maybe you have all the confidence in the world and this isn't going to be a problem for you. And that's amazing too. We have some other things to just keep in mind. If you saw, I'm going to drink a sip of my water. If you saw my tip of the week, it was on Monday, well, which is today when I'm recording. It was about making sure you have a UPS or FedEx number. While swatches are often free or very inexpensive, the shipping is always on you. So it's really helpful to have that number prepared. That will help you come across as professional and prepared, and like what you're doing a little bit. So have that. It'll impress the vendors, and it'll help a lot when it comes to getting those swatches out to you. So that was my tip of the week. I'm going to be doing those tips of the week on Mondays. It's just going to be a little short video of a tip that will pertain to the live on Wednesday. So if the tip was helpful, tune in on Wednesdays. It'll be more in depth with more tips. All right. So the first reason I wanted to go over was it's important to build your network as a new designer. And that's not only with the vendors. There'll be trim sourcing and buttons and labels and possibly packaging and fabrics and all of these things that you might not even be thinking that you need because you're just thinking about fabrics. But being able to build the network with not only the people showing and the people that have collections or lines that you'll possibly purchase from in the future, but other designers. You need to have people in your corner. Anyone that you can gather that's going to help you get through this. It's not easy being an entrepreneur, and it can be lonely. So having other people to go to for advice or to just talk to is really helpful. And seeing other designers as friends or colleagues more so than competition will really only benefit you. You all are going through the same thing. You're looking for vendors, you're trying to make things work, you're trying to be profitable. You may have other full-time jobs, you may be balancing children, whatever that looks like. This is a great place to build your network so that you don't have to be all alone. And during COVID, we didn't have fabric shows, so it was tough because everyone was isolated, so isolated. So, it made me have an even extra gratitude for the trade shows and seeing the fellow vendors than before, because going so long without seeing them, I really felt like how lonely it can be when it's just you behind a computer doing your thing. So building a network, have business cards ready, and they don't have to be your end all be all. You can print 100 cards, even if you don't have your brand name yet, that's okay. Just print something so that if you meet someone or you're talking to a vendor, you can give them a card. It'll have your address on it. So like if you're going to have swatches sent to your house, totally fine. You have this card, they can pull all the information or just like staple that card to the order form, and you won't have to fill out your address a million times. Plus, if you meet someone, you want to connect, it gives you something to trade. So yeah, have like simple business cards made out. And, even if you don't have a business name or it's a working business name, whatever, that's okay. It'll just make your life easier and it'll help the networking go quicker. A lot of these shows will have like a happy hour or some sort of event tied with where it's like more of a social thing. So definitely get involved there. I am not, when someone says, oh, you have to go there and network, I cringe. Like I'm like an outgoing person, like an introvert out. Yeah, I'm also very introverted. So like when I enter an event, I always end up making one really great connection, but I'm definitely not the social butterfly that's like running around the room to meet everyone. And that's okay, because I've met some really amazing people at these networking events that have been lifelong connections. So whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you can do is good enough. You're try and make it to these events, even if you only talk to one person and then leave, like that's okay. I understand. I understand not being, a networker. But when you go to these shows, just stay open. Stay open to meeting other designers, even vendors that like maybe you won't be using immediately, but they may come in handy in the future. They may have suggestions for you. They may, you never know. You never know what could happen. So just going there without, like if you go to a trade show and you're like, this is my end all be all, I need this, and then I'm out. Like if you go with just that narrow mindset, you could miss out on a lot in these fabric shows. So going more to say like, I'm going to meet new vendors. I'm going to see what's out there. I'm going to talk to other designers. I'm going to just go and build my network. That's a lot more efficient than going with like, I need this fabric, and this fabric. Because if you're going to all the booths and being like, do you have this? And they're like, no. And then you go to the next one, do you have this? No. And I have met people at shows, they come up to my booth and they're like, where do I find this? And I'm like, what? I don't know. And then they're like, okay, bye. And it's like, but I have a wealth of information of other things you could have asked me that would be very useful for you. So staying open to just having conversations instead of like, yes, no, now, never. Going in with more of an open mind to build a network. This is the first time probably that you've gone out as a business owner. Fabric and sourcing is like the very, very first step. So I understand that you want to get everything done, but there's going to be other trade shows and fabric shows, and this is going to be something that will happen every 6 months. So you will see the same people at these shows over and over and over. So it is important to be mindful of that and be friendly and try to make a good first impression. So yeah, building your network is one of the really important reasons. The next is market research. Yes, again, you're going looking for these specific fabrics. However, also you should be doing market research. The trade shows, I'm just reading my notes. So the trade shows will be a unique place. It's really the only place that you're going to go where you have all these different vendors with actual swatches and things you can touch. It's different than when you're online. Like you can definitely do market research online, 100%. But like I said, fabric shows and even trade shows, like if you're going to go to a trade show where other designers are selling, so it's like a wholesale show, market research is really, really important. And again, you don't need to be pointed with like, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I have to find out, and this is what I need to work out and find a solution for. If you go and just absorb what you're seeing, what trends are coming, talk to the vendors, just go there with an open mind that for market research, maybe you want to know if you should be doing salads or prints. So go into the show and talk what other vendors, like ask them, like, what is your number one selling fabric? What has been your staple for years? Like what I'm doing t-shirts, what fabric would you suggest? These vendors know they have hundreds, maybe thousands of designers as clients. And some of them are really big names too. And they sometimes will share those with you to be like, oh, the Row buys this fabric for this piece. So, talking to the vendors, again, building your network, very similar, but talking to the vendors and see if they'll share any of the information about what they're seeing in the market, and doing some market research. My other tip I'm going to share with you would be when you go into a show, shows are getting a little bit smaller. They used to be like gigantic and you'd walk in and be like, oh my God, but they are getting a little bit smaller, which is great, because I feel like the vendors that are there are better fits, like it's because they're showing up because they've had success at these shows. So the vendors pick and choose the shows. We don't have as many offshore vendors at these shows as I have seen in the past since COVID. And offshore vendors tend to have really large minimums and maybe, aren't quite the best fit for a new designer. That's why the fabric show is so amazing. All of the vendors there will provide small minimums, 5 yards or less for your first order for production. So when you go to the fabric show, you don't have to worry about talking to a vendor and really like falling in love with the fabric and then them saying like, oh, it's 1,000-yard minimum. That's not going to happen at the fabric show. So that's why it's a really great show if you're a new designer. But back to my tip. When you get to the show, just try and not be scared by how big it is or how many vendors there are, or if you're going to see everyone, and walk the show first. Just like walk all the aisles, take notes. If you see a vendor like, oh, booth 524 has plaids, like I want to take a deeper look into the plaids at that booth, and then just keep walking. So if you walk the whole show, normally that will take, depending on the side of the show, I guess it's always going to be different, but it won't take that long. And then you can feel like you saw everything and you can really go back to those booths that you are interested in and spend the quality time that you're looking for in those booths without always thinking like, oh my God, but what if there's more plaids? And what if there's other booths? And where else I got to hurry because I got to see everything. So it kind of like releases that like FOMO fear, like, oh my God, I'm missing out. So when you go walk the show first, take notes of where you want to join, go back to those booths, spend the quality time that you have, and then you can like wander more to see if there's any other booths. But I always find it like if you just, I'm like, hey, I'm just walking, I'm just window shopping now. So if you walk the whole show, you can see like it's not always as huge, as intimidating as it may seem. And then you can go and be a little bit more relaxed when you're talking to the vendors. So that is my tip for when you get to a show. The next reason is that you should really be joining these fabric shows is for inspiration. You should be getting inspiration everywhere, but when you go to the fabric shows, they will inspire new designs. Now, this is a little bit of a catch-22 because you should already have your designs before you start sourcing. So you know what you're looking for. Are you making t-shirts? Are you making jeans? Are you making jackets? So you don't want to go to a fabric show and change everything that you're doing because you found this one fabric that you fell in love with. So you want to be careful here. You don't want to change. And this is why fabric shows are like the very, very first step of production. I have other videos about the steps of the production. You should have designs, create a mood board, blah, blah, blah. You can watch those, but you don't want a fabric show to change everything. What I tell my clients is when they go to a fabric show, take notes of fabrics and let it inspire your next season. So you should be getting swatches. And if it doesn't fit in to what you're doing right now, but it inspires a new design, a new capsule collection, whatever that is, that can be next. At some point, I promise you will start to get behind when it comes to the designing and run out of ideas, possibly. So having the more backstock of designs, the better. So while you're creating this collection first, maybe it's 5 pieces or 8 pieces. You don't want to just keep building until you have like a 30-piece collection for your first season. You want to have, okay, well, next season, I really like this idea and here's this fabric. You want to think about the future because you'll always need to have new designs. And if you push them all into that first season and then second season comes, you've got to come up with 30 more designs because that's what you did for your first season. So try and keep it tight and stay inspired, but keeping in mind, you don't have to throw everything in this very, very first launch. It's inspiration for future. So the fabric shows are like, you can actually touch all the fabric and there's all these different vendors and it's the only place that you can go. Like we have the Garment District in New York and in LA. It's a little bit, it's a lot harder to navigate because you might not necessarily know where to go to find all these people. So at the fabric show, they're all in the same place. So being able to just walk around and be inspired and have things to touch and feel as designers is so, so important. So inspiration is the next reason why fabric shows are important. And then I'm going to talk about trend forecasting. A lot of these shows will have some sort of workshop or seminar. I talk so fast, I don't know why, and then I'm like out of breath. Trend forecasting. A lot of these places will have possibly the Pantone trend forecasting for next season. And while you can't take pictures of that board, you can absorb it and remember these colors. But they will talk about trends or they'll have a seminar. Seminars are really, really great. So see what these shows and what they're offering. But being able to hear the trends of the next, I think they do trends like 2 years in advance, believe it or not. Like they've already picked the colors that everyone's going to be obsessed with next year, which is wild to me. Where's this think tank that's like making up these colors? But they do it and they're always right. So yes, being able to sit in on those trend forecastings is really important. Also, again, talking to the vendors. What are they seeing? What do they predict? They have their finger on the pulse every single day. So being able to talk to them about what is up and coming, what you should watch for, what fabrics are hot, what is selling out, what everyone's interested in. So trend forecasting is another reason why you should attend fabric shows. And my last reason for attending a fabric show is talking to the experts. And I think I've probably talked about this and all the reasons why you should be going and attending these fabric shows. But yes, having the opportunity to talk to people that have worked, some of these vendors have been in the industry since the 70s or 80s. So being able to talk to them and ask them questions, feel it out. Sometimes they're really busy and they're not really able to answer all of your questions, but there's so many experts that know so much about the industry that are at these fabric shows that it's a really great opportunity to get to know these people so you have places to turn when you run into speed bumps. They're also, like I said, a lot of these shows have seminars or workshops that you can join. They're generally free or inexpensive. The fabric show in New York does not, but her other shows do have the Miami and the other shows, LA, they do have seminars to sit in, and they're either, inexpensive, $25 or free. But check out the seminars and be able to sit in on these expert talks. So really, really awesome. And most of these places have Q&A. So they'll do a seminar and then it'll be Q&A. So you can get your specific questions answered about launching a clothing line by an expert without having to pay top dollar for the consultation. So that is a really, really important reason to be going to these trade shows. I myself will answer questions with new designers. So yeah, it's, like free consulting. You want to be mindful, obviously, you don't want to take advantage of anyone, but most people will spend time and answer your questions and just give you a lot of valuable advice. There's a lot of really, really knowledgeable people at these shows. And you want to be there and be around them and get to know them. And like Vimora, we will do a 20-minute complimentary strategy session. Although we offer that on our website, you don't have to be at the trade show to get that information. But, that's just like an example of being able to talk to an expert to help you get through the first few steps of launch. So, yeah, I'm going to run through the reasons again. Number 1 is building your network. Number 2 is conducting market research. Number 3 is finding inspiration. That's also from the other people at the shows, like that are attending, like the other designers, the people at the booths. Like this is like where all the fashion people are for these next couple days. So like that's also inspiration outside of the fabrics and what the vendors have. Trend forecasting and learning from the experts. So we will be at the fabric show Wednesday and Thursday. I personally am going to be there on Wednesday. Thursday, I won't be there, but Allison will be there. So if you are at the show, or if you're in the New York area and you're able to come, it's at the New Yorker Hotel, Wednesday from 10 to 6, Thursday from 9 to 6. And I hope to see you all there. And we will see you next week at 12:30. I hope you enjoyed today's live. And as always, if you're looking to talk to me more about launching a clothing line or how Vimora can help you, you can go to our website and book a complimentary 20-minute strategy session. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week.